Hey parents, Dr. Garrett with here from Foundation Chiropractic, and I'm kind of doing a pop-up Picky Eaters webinar for you guys. We see tons of kids in our office. If you follow our office much, a lot of kids on the spectrum, sensory issues, hyperactivity, anxiety, things like that. And we have a lot of parents coming in, and their goals are to improve, the foods and the nutrition of their kids. So, I want to do this pop-up webinar because we understand it can be emotional, it can be frustrating, it can cause a lot of headaches, right? All sorts of things. So the big thing is to understand that, listen, I get it, okay? Schedules are hard. Your job as a parent is to protect your child, to keep your child happy and healthy, right? So in order to stay happy and healthy, they have to eat something, right? So even if it's not what you want them to eat, it's hard to say no because they need to eat something, right? So I understand that. And like I said, I understand with schedules, it can be very, very hard with, soccer, extracurricular activities, academics, all that sort of stuff. So I get it. But we still got to keep in mind that 80-20 rule, which means 80% of the time we're doing things right. 80% of the time we're eating those good, nutritious foods. 20% of the time we're cheating, okay? So it helps if you can kind of schedule and plan things out. If you're going to have a busy weekend ahead, with soccer or something like that, make sure you're eating as healthy as you can during the week. So on the weekend you can cheat a little bit and things will be okay. So this picky eater, I guess you could call it syndrome, typically kind of starts around the age of 2. And the reason is neurologically. So cognitively, these kids are becoming more aware from a brain development standpoint. They're becoming more aware. In what's called kind of like a fight or flight response. You can, they're terrible twos, right? Absolutely. So they're becoming more aware of things. It's like stranger danger, right? If someone's a stranger, they'll either fight the stranger or run away from it. Same thing with broccoli and green beans, right? Fight or flight mode. And sometimes both, right? They'll throw the broccoli, they'll fight it, and they'll run away from it. So that's kind of when this really kind of begins to happen, is around the age of 2, because they're becoming more cognitively aware of their environment and things that are new to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of explain the different categories kind of that we see, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks and kind of educate you on how we help as well in our office. So a couple ones. One is the ADHD kids. And first and foremost, your kid doesn't have to have like a label, okay, necessarily to have a picky eater syndrome. I'm just saying a lot of our office is neurodevelopmental type stuff, and a lot of those kids definitely have picky eater syndrome, I guess is what we'll call it for the purpose of this webinar. So the first one is ADHD type kids. Kids are on go, 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 go all the time. Okay. Big thing with these kids is they don't want to slow down. Okay, so they're going to eat things that are quick. Often, and we'll go in more detail about that. But that's a big one. One ADHD kids. Another one is anxiety. Boys and girls. We see it in a lot of girls, and that they're too scared to try something new, or they have this anxiety that their stomach doesn't feel well. And I'll explain, like I said, I'm going to break these down a little bit later on. And the third one is kind of your sensory and your spectrum kids. These kids have their senses are so heightened. Anything, sorry, we had a little connection issue. Anything new can kind of be an overstimulus to their system. So those are the 3 categories that we're kind of going to talk about. And the first one is going to be the sensory spectrum kids, okay? And yes, I do have some notes here because even though it's kind of impromptu, I made some notes this morning because I want to make sure I get my point across because, like I said, I know this can be very important, very frustrating for families. These textures, so like I said, they have heightened senses, right? So these textures, these smells, it's almost too much for their system to handle, so they don't even want to try anything new. And a lot of these kids, what you'll notice is they like things that melt in their mouth, macaroni and cheese, bread, noodles, pizza, but probably without the crust. Same thing with bread, right? You always have to cut the crust off. And one thing is what you'll notice, chicken nuggets is another one. What you notice about all these foods, they'll melt in your mouth, right? You don't have to have the texture, you don't have to have the jaw power to chew and grind these foods to break them up and swallow them. They would all literally, if you set chicken nuggets in your mouth, they would disintegrate over time, right? They're very, very soft foods. And the reason that they do that is they may not have literally the muscle tone of their face to break down those foods. That's why they don't want, a piece of broccoli that's hard. They don't have the muscle tone. And if you think about it, what do a lot of sensory and spectrum kids have? Low muscle tone, okay? So it makes sense, right? They don't want anything that's hard to eat. They don't want anything that's new because it heightens their senses. They want what they know, what will melt in their mouth, and what's really easy to digest. So one thing we need to do for these kids is we need to calm their system down, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But we need to calm their system down and get them better able to adapt to these changes in their food. So when you set a piece of broccoli down, it's not so overwhelming, it's not so fight or flight. And that's kind of the chiropractic part and the tips and tricks stuff that I'll explain later on. But that's the big thing with sensory and spectrum kids. So much sensory awareness, low muscle tone. They don't want to try anything new. They don't like the smell of new things, and they don't have the tone to actually chew and digest food. ADHD kids, pretty simple. These kids are go, go, go all the time. They don't want to sit down. They don't want to have anything that's going to take time to eat and chew and digest, right? They're go, go, go. And they like a lot of stuff that's rich in carbs, right? Noodles, stuff like that. Highs and lows, just like how their body is, right? How their brain is. They're go, go, go all the time, then they crash out. Same thing with the foods they're eating, right? They're eating foods that give them that go, 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 those high sugar, high carb type stuff, and then they crash afterwards later on, right? So that's a big one we see with the ADHD type kids, is that their motor's just going, going, going. So same thing with these kids. We need to calm that motor down. Get these kids to just relax a little bit and realize, hey, life's not going to get away from us if we sit down for 5 minutes and eat a nice, healthy, nutritious meal. And then the third one is, one more thing with those, I apologize, like I said, I had a couple notes here. The ADHD kids, they're often also on meds that suppress the appetite, right? So that can impact these kids as well. They don't feel hungry, so they're not going to eat as much anyway, so they're already going to be a little bit malnourished. And plus, on top of that, they don't want the rich, healthy foods because those take time to sit down and eat and things like that. The third one is anxiety. I talked a lot about this, especially with girls, though, that 6 to 12 age. When you have a lot of anxiety going on, you can have a lot of digestive type issues, right? Like the complaint of stomach pains, butterfly stomachs, not feeling well. So this isn't so much that their senses are overwhelmed, it's that the anxiety itself is literally causing these kids not to want to eat, not to want to, digest food. And it's because their brain, that gut-brain connection is so stressed out. So same thing, we need to start calming this anxiety, because when we start calming this anxiety, we're going to get to the root cause of the digestion issues, if that makes sense. Once the anxiety's gone, they're not going to have these butterfly stomachs, they're not going to have these stomach pains and things like that, okay? So what I'm talking about, so those are the three categories: the sensory and spectrum kids, heightened senses, low muscle tone. The ADHD kids that are go, 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 they want quick foods, they want high carbs, quick sugar rushes, followed by the high lows, and also often on medications that suppress their appetite. And the third one is the anxiety. And boys and girls, but especially girls with that butterfly stomach and things like that. So those three categories. And what I've said a lot throughout this is these kids are stressed out, right? They're stressed out. That's why they have this anxiety. They're stressed out. That's why they're go, go, go. What am I talking about? What I'm talking about from a neurological standpoint, okay? In your nervous system, you have two modes of adaptation. Okay, I'm just going to grab this real quick to show you. It's going to be backwards, but we talk about this a lot in our office. You have two modes of adaptation. You have your parasympathetic mode, which is your calm mode, known as rest and digest. Okay, and then you have your sympathetic mode, which is your fight or flight mode. And that's what I talked about earlier, right? That fight or flight when they're at age of 2. Fight the broccoli, flight the broccoli. So in life, you want to be here and be able to go back and forth depending on what life throws at you. What we see in a lot of kids in our office is they're not balanced between the two. And what I mean by that is they're stuck on this fight or flight mode. So your fight or flight mode, to give you an example, it's, we're walking down an alley and a stranger jumps out at us to try and hurt us. You have two options: fight the stranger or flight it, run away from it. When that happens, your body focuses on survival. So your digestive system slows down, your immune system slows down, because your body's actually very intelligent. If you're running from someone or you're in a fight for your life, you don't have time to stop and go to the bathroom. So your body gets very, very tense, you're fighting or you're running. And that impacts the digestion, like I said. So that's why these girls that are on that, that have those butterfly stomachs and things like that, they're so stressed out, they're so stuck on that sympathetic mode that they have these digestive cramps and stuff like that, and that's why they don't want to eat. So instead of being balanced, they're stuck on that sympathetic side. So what we need to do is start bringing them back towards the parasympathetic side to give them rest and digest, allow them that optimal growth and development. Because you can't be in both systems at the same time. So people, ask us often, well, how could my child get stuck on that stressful mode? We use a lot of analogies in our office, and we simply say nerves that fire together wire together, right? When you're stressed out every day of your life, whether that be from chemical, physical, or emotional stress, you become wired to be stressed out. And a lot of girls these days, a lot of people don't have the healthiest diets, right? So there's a chemical stress. A lot of girls these days, and boys, emotional stress, right? Trying to fit in at school, trying to fit in athletically, be good academically. Just a ton of emotional stress these days. And with, smartphones and things like that, there's even more bullying and even more things on social media that can impact that stress. And then physical trauma as well can impact the spine and impact stress on the nervous system. So when those stressors add up over time, and these girls are stressed out every day of their lives, they become wired that way, and it really impacts the way they're able to go back and forth between sympathetic and parasympathetic. So that's the big thing with them. Same thing with these ADHD kids, right? They're go, fight or flight mode. And the sensory spectrum kids, same thing. They don't have the balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And if you don't believe me, I also have this research article here that was in Frontiers in Integrative Neuroscience. And what it talks about is sympathetic versus parasympathetic. And what it says here is the kiddos with the sensory processing disorder had significantly lower parasympathetic activity, which means they're what? They're stuck on the sympathetic fight or flight mode. So like I said, what we got to do is we got to bring these kiddos back down to parasympathetic to get that balance. How do we do that? A big one is adjustments. Okay? First and foremost, let me take a step back. The function of your nervous system, right, your brain and spinal cord, is to perceive the environment and coordinate behavior, allow you to adapt to changes in your environment. What these kids right now aren't able to do is adapt, right? They can't adapt to the broccoli. They can't adapt to maybe social norms. They can't adapt to, right, the changes in their environment. So like I said, this is all rooted in the nervous system. We have to get down there. We have to start improving the way the nervous system functions, and adjustments do that. Because what a lot of people don't understand is think of, your brain and your spine as a communication highway throughout your body. And when you have misalignments in your spine, what it does is it decreases motion at those joints. Well, your nervous system, your brain loves movement. It's very stimulating. It's very calming to the brain. So the purpose of adjustments, it's not like what you typically think of for neck pain and back pain, right? It's to restore motion at those joints in the spine, which what we'll do is drive good input to the brain. And that good input to the brain is very nutritious, and it takes these kids out of fight or flight mode and gives them back into parasympathetic mode. And when you do that consistently enough and repetitively enough, just like these kids are wired on sympathetic mode, what we can do is every single adjustment start bringing them back towards that parasympathetic mode so they can have this balance. And when you have this balance, these kids really take off with the foods they can eat in this picky eater syndrome, as we're going to call it. So some other tips and tricks. Family dinner. Be the example, right? Mirror imaging. Kids are going to do what the parents do, okay? Parents, if you're going to eat unhealthy foods, you can't expect your kids to sit down and eat broccoli, okay? So make sure the parents are doing that as well. Pair the good with the bad. If they don't like broccoli, set it next to something that they do like. So hopefully that, they'll kind of realize, hey, these two things get along. It's okay. The broccoli's safe next to, my macaroni and cheese. That's what I like, but not good for me. Use non-food incentives. Obviously we want positive reinforcement, positive feedback. And like simple thing, kids love stickers, right? If your kid's going to eat, give them a sticker. You don't have to give them candy. Give them something that they enjoy that's not harmful, not detrimental. And stickers is a great one. Don't force it. Bring it out. Let them play with it. Bring it out to the table. Understand. Listen, they're going to throw it away for a while, but let them start to play with it. Let them have fun with it. Let them try it, and eventually they'll find something that they like. Be creative and make it fun. Most kids in this office love getting adjusted, but those first couple visits, they may kind of be hesitant and kind of like, well, what's going on here? Can I trust this guy? You got to be creative. We say like, imagine if you were Superman, how would Superman get adjusted, right? And the kids come and they like fly on the table and they lay like they're Superman. So be creative with it and stuff like that. Get your kids involved. Have them help with the meal prep, okay? Get them to understand broccoli's not bad for them, right? It doesn't have to be like serious stuff. Have them help pour some water in, right? It doesn't have to be, or add a little bit of seasoning, right? Just make it fun for the kids so they're involved. If they're involved, they're going to be more likely to do it. And then the last thing to do is get these kids in that brake pedal mode. And that's what I was talking about from a neurological standpoint, right? The function of the nervous system is to perceive the environment and coordinate behavior. Be able to adapt to different situations. They should be able to adapt to different types of foods. Broccoli should not be stranger danger. I apologize. Broccoli should not be stranger danger, okay? So in a big way we do that is with the adjustments. Start calming that system down, get that balance, and I'm telling you these kids can really take off. So I hope you found this information valuable. If you have questions or comments, please share them. If you have other ideas, parents, if you're on here, something's working good for you, please share so other parents can try those ways as well, because like I said, this can be very emotional, it can be very frustrating, create a lot of headaches for families and stuff like that. And we're here to help in any way that we can. And I hope you found this information valuable, and take care. Hope to talk to you soon.